Many schools are asking, what should the curriculum look like in their schools? How should it be put together? Well, there are all sorts of options available to schools. And for those of us who are involved in supporting schools, one of the traps is to say, hey, this is the way you should do it. More important is that schools develop the capacity to have a conceptual framework, a framework that says these are the sorts of things that our curriculum documentation should actually be showing, bearing in mind that it's not the documentation that is the true test of the quality of a school's curriculum. The true quality of a school's curriculum is what actually happens in classrooms with students day to day. Now that is one of the first concepts we need to come to grips with, that how we structure things we need to have a confidence it's going to resonate into practice. Davies and Ellison give good advice. The thicker the plan, the less it affects classroom practice. How many times have I observed that? And yet somehow we seem to be reluctant to take the message. So the first point in developing your school's curriculum is to know what the requirements are. They're on page 44. They provide you with a scope of what's expected of you. Remember, in the 4-point direction for the implementation of the school curriculum, it says that you are given permission to take ownership. And that whole notion means that whatever you do in relation to the page 44 requirements needs to be consistent with the general intent of the national curriculum, yet defensibly focusing on the priorities and the learning needs for your particular students in your school. So follow the direction, know the requirements, follow the direction of the 4 goals for the implementation of this curriculum. Rationalization of learning, focusing on big picture goals, what is the important learning in each of the different dimensions for our students, having that quality teaching clarified, and having somehow a sense of how we connect with and engage with our communities. When it comes to rationalizing, what does that mean? Well, if you look at an overall schema of what's in the curriculum, its different dimensions, and you look at an outline of a school's year with its 4 terms and its 10 weeks in each term, you could reach a conclusion very quickly, as a group of principals did when I did this analysis with them one day. You'd reach a conclusion that you cannot cover everything that's in the national curriculum and do it well. Now that's an important thing to bear in mind in designing your curriculum. It means that you've got to make decisions about what the priorities are and yet still honour the overall intentions of that curriculum. If you think you're going to cover every sentence, every statement, every point that's in there, you're going to be skipping over the curriculum lightly and doing a great disservice to teaching and learning in your school. So we need to ask ourselves, is it going to be surface coverage or learning for depth? Is it going to be big picture goals or little picture objectives? Are we going to have a sort of an integrated approach of blending and mixing, putting everything into the bag and hoping it'll all come through in the wash? Or are we going to have a connected approach where we can actually, for ourselves, satisfy our approaches as being connected, the school's curriculum being connected with the intentions of the national curriculum, the key competencies and values being connected with the learning areas, the quality of teaching being connected to the actual practice of what goes on in our schools. The connections are important. I have seen very, very good programs in schools that are discipline-based or subject-based. I've also seen very, very good programs that are so-called integrated or inquiry-based. There is no one best method. So see and make those connections. If you look at, for example, the learning competencies in the 2 major dimensions, you'll see that they are threaded, connected across many aspects of the curriculum. An important starting point for the development of the school's curriculum is to develop a plan or a structure or a design of what your overall curriculum is going to be like. Now at New Times School, it's been decided that this curriculum is going to have two major dimensions, base learning and rich learning. And the base learning is going to be literacy, English, and mathematics and statistics, or numeracy. They are foundation learning areas for all children at our primary level of education. The other dimension, however, should not be devalued, hence my choice of the word rich learning. And my aspiration is that the experiences provided within that dimension will be rich in terms of their potential for engaging and involving teachers and students. In this particular design, we've made rationalizations, the first goal direction for implementation. So the rationalizations mean not just focusing on the big picture goals, but saying, well, we're not going to have 5 key competencies across here, 7 values and 8 learning areas and 27 strands and all that sort of stuff. It's going to get far too complicated. We need to keep the focus clear. So we've got a knowledge strand, and the knowledge strand says we're going to draw out big picture achievement objectives from each of the learning areas: science, social sciences, the arts, and so on. Then we're going to have learning competencies, not calling it thinking, learning competencies. And of course thinking, it permeates throughout that particular competency. But that competency is going to involve things like processing and analysing information, inquiry skills, reasoning. Then there's a section on values and a section then on the personal and social competencies. Develop big picture goals for your school. We've given you some examples in this particular chapter of how a school might go about deciding what its big picture goals are going to be. The challenge is to develop a school's curriculum documentation that shows alignment with the national curriculum document and the school's own priorities for the learning goals for its students. Provided you with an example of what that documentation might be. It would be a pity to see this example being duplicated and replicated around New Zealand. Rather, examine the underlying concepts that this frame is consistent with, and then attempt, if you subscribe to them, to formulate them in a way that makes them your own for your own school. But this school's curriculum plan covers the different dimensions of the curriculum. It actually sets out what the New Zealand curriculum priority goals, objectives are, and then alongside that it shows the school's own priority objectives. And the school has permission to do this. Why have I put both the New Zealand curriculum and the school's goals together? Well, it's to help demonstrate that the two are interrelated. The two are connected. But for the school's purposes, its focus now becomes on our school, our priorities, our goals. Avoid overload. Decide which learning intentions in a long list are most relevant to the needs of your students. Capitalise on cross-curricular learning. So don't attempt to say we're going to do Living World strand, term 1, year 3, this, that and the next thing, but rather say let's develop a learning experience, a program, a theme, a topic in science that allows us to actually work across the strands. There are so many ways that that can be done. And then, arguably, you're going to be working towards rich learning experiences which have as their focus big picture learning goals. To conclude, let's go back to the observation of Davies and Allison. The thicker the plan, the less likely it is to influence practice. Schools already have a lot of curriculum documentation. A lot of it will still be quite relevant, still useful. The revised New Zealand curriculum gives us an opportunity to review what we've done in the past with a clear understanding of what the direction of this revised curriculum is about. We wish you well in your explorations.